Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be learning how to draft this Basque corset or cupped bustier. Okay, so it's a tube Basque corset and I attached a detachable sleeve to it. You can wear it with or without the sleeve, and then yeah, that's it. See how fitted it is. That is the cup. By the way, this isn't my size, it's for a friend, but I got her permission to fit it. That's why it's not so fitted on me, because she's bigger than I am. So see how the upper bust is firm, the grip. So be learning how to draft this tube basque corset. So let's get started. So first, I've already ruled my lines, so we'll go through the lines for better understanding. So we'll go through the measurements. So from my starting point, which is my shoulder line, I measured my bust line. Originally my bust line is 8.5, okay, but I added 5 half inch seam allowance, okay, because you know that for a corset or a cupped posture like this, you don't want the armhole area to be really up. So whatever your bust line is, you add half inch to it. So I have 9 inches to on my bust line, okay, 9 inches for my bust line. Then for my bust point, I have 10.5 inches. Then on my underbust, I have 14 inches. Then for my waist, okay, so for my waist, I have 16 inches, okay. Then for the length, that is, the front is going to have 16 inches is actually the actual length, okay, for the front and the back. Okay, that's my waistline, because it's going to be exactly on my navel. It's supposed to be on my navel so that you can wear it with a high-waisted trouser or skirts. But for the basque effect for the front, I added 7 inches to it from my waist. I measured 7 inches and I marked that is the full length for the front. Okay, so 7 inches is just okay for me. You can do 5, you can even do 8. It depends on how long you want the basque effect to be. Okay, so on my full length there, I'm going to mark my bust span, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 18. Is 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm marking 4 inches. Okay. I marked on my full length, marked on my waist. I'm going to mark on my bust point. This is to enable me connect the points with a straight line. Okay. So get your nipple to nipple measurement, divide it by 2, and then you're going to mark it and then connect it with a straight line like so. Okay, I've connected it with a straight line. Okay, so the next thing is to determine how up or how down you want your corset to be, and the way to determine this is to get the difference between your bust point and your underbust. That is the radius of your cup. Okay, so the difference between my bust point and my underbust is 3.5, that is 3.5 inches. Okay, so on my bust points, I'm going to place the 3.5 inches from my bust point upwards. Okay, that is to determine how high you want your cup to be. Okay, and a corset is usually okay when the cup is just not so long. Okay, but you can actually add half inch to it too if you want it to come up a bit, but that is how much you can add, okay, so that it won't look long or be looking really funny. So I've measured that 3.5 inch from my bust point upwards, and I wrote the line there. Okay, so that is the line that is going to now be our starting point. I think that is where our cup is going to be, exactly on above our bust line. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to mark 4 inches, that is my nipple to nipple there, okay, on our new line, and just connect it to that bust point line. Okay, so I have the straight line from the top to my full length. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to do my dart intakes. Okay, so I'm going to do a dart intake of 1/2 inch on my waist. Okay, and then I'm going to take 1 inch on each side of my bust. So I took half inch on each side of my waist and 1 inch on each side of my on the bust. Okay, so I'm going to connect it. So this is not really will I say the formula or static. Okay, you can actually do 1 inch on the underbust and also maintain that 1 inch for your waist. Okay, but I'm doing this because I really want a grip on the underbust. Okay, I just want it to really grip on the underbust or be firm. Okay, that's why I'm tightening my underbust. Okay, so I've connected my lines like this, and then I'll come on my full length. Okay, I'm going to take half inch on both sides of my full length. That is, I'm maintaining what I have on my waistline. Okay, I'm going to take the same half inch on my full length, and then I'm going to connect it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to come on my bust point. I'm going to take half inch down. Okay, and then I'll also take half inch up. This is because I don't want to connect it exactly on my bust point to eliminate every pointiness and to actually create balance on my bust point. Okay, so for a bigger bust you can actually do 1 inch, but because this person is on the small size, I did half inch. So instead of connecting my line exactly on my bust point, I'm going to connect it, the line on my under bust, I'm going to connect it on that half inch that I marked below my bust point. Okay, can you see? So instead of connecting it exactly on my bust point, I connected it on that half inch that I marked. This is to create room for the bust and to remove all the pointiness on the bust point. Okay, so that your bust point will not be pointed. It's just to blend it very well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to take my that intake, that is, do my upper bust tightening. You have to do your upper bust tightening so that your corset will be firm on your upper bust, so that it won't be opening. So I'm going to take 1 inch on each side. That is the 1 inch, the same 1 inch I took on my under bust. I'm going to take it on that upper bust. Okay, that is the starting point for our corset. Okay, so you're going to take 1 inch on each side. Normally I would take half inch. Okay, that is if is a normal bustier that would have yoke, or if it's a corset that will have a yoke, I'm going to take half inch. But because it's not going to have a yoke, I'm taking 1 inch so that the upper bust is going to be firm and grip my bust very well. Okay, so I'm going to connect that line to that half inch that I marked on top of my bust point, you see, and not exactly on my bust point. Remember, that's the half inch I marked on top. I'm going to connect the lines like this. Okay, see how it looks. So the next thing I'm going to take is to determine how deep I want the neckline to be, or the shape of my neckline. Okay, so on the starting point of my corset, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches. Okay, on that area. Okay, you can even go as low as 2 or even 3, depending on how deep you want, if you want your cleavage to really show. Okay, but 1.5 is just okay if you don't want your cleavage to show. So on that 1.5, I'm going to come inside by half of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a straight line there to my under bust line. Okay, now I've drawn the line. So the next thing I want to do now is to choose the shape I want for the next shape I want for my corset. Okay, you can do okay, first I'm going to bring this line down before we do the next shape. That line that we have there, okay, I'm going to bring it line down. That is the armhole line that I drew, but because we won't be needing an armhole, okay, so I'm going to draw it down. Okay, this is to enable me draw my cup very well. Okay, but if you're working with a bigger bust, okay, you can actually add half inch from that line. You're going to mark half inch and draw a new line. Okay, that will be your guide for your cup. Okay, because our boob is actually fuller on the left side, but this is a small bust, so I'm just going to maintain that line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw my cup. Okay, so you're going to place your French curve like this. Okay, you're going to place it on your bust point. Draw a curve from your bust point to your under bust like this. So you draw it in a way that it will look nice. Okay, draw in a way that it will look like a cup. Okay, so you will do the same thing for this side from your bust point to your under bust. So you keep your ruler, your French curve like this, and then you will draw the curve like this. Okay, so this is how it will look once you're done. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw the neck shape I want. Okay, so I want to do a sweetheart neck shape. So if you can actually do a round shape like this, okay, but I'm going to do a sweet line neck shape. So I'm going to place my ruler like this and connect that point there, connect it like this. Okay, you can do this if you wish, but I'm just going to do my sweetheart neckline. So I'm going to place my ruler like this, my French curve. I don't know why I keep saying ruler, sorry. I'm going to place my French curve like this, and then I draw the sweetheart neckline. Can you see what it looks like? Okay, so I'm done with the shape of the neckline. Then I'm going to do for this other side. Remember, this is what do we call it, a tube corset. It's not going to have an armhole. Okay, so I'm going to draw the same shape I did over there. I'm going to do it for this place, but you can actually do this like I said. It's all your choice. Okay, but I'm just going to do it like this to maintain that sweetheart neck shape. I'm going to do the same thing for this side, so I'm just going to connect it like this. Okay, remember this is a tube corset. I just added a detachable sleeve, tacked it on my side seam, on my upper side seam, my armhole area, so it's not going to have an armhole. Okay, so I've connected the lines like so, and this is what it's looking like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to now do is to insert my measurements. That is my circumference. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to insert my bust circumference or my bust line. And I want you to remember that whatever measurement, whatever that intake you took, okay, you're going to be adding it back to your measurements. Okay, so that you will not have any shortages. Okay, so all the darts we took, we are going to be adding them back to whatever measurements we have. Okay, so let's start with the bust circumference, which will be inserting on our bust line. So you get the circumference of your bust and you divide it by 4. Okay, and then you're going to mark it. Okay, you mark it on your bust line. So your bust measurement, you're going to marking it on your bust line. But first, we'll get the dart intake on our bust line. So the dart intake I have there is 1 inch. So you measure the darts that you'll be removing. The darts we have there, okay, on your bust line have 1 inch. So you insert your bust measurement, okay, bust divided by 4. You're going to mark it, okay. So when you mark it, you're going to add that dart intake. Remember, I measured 1 there, so I'm going to add it back. This is because we'll be cutting that off, so you have to add it back, okay, so that you won't have any shortages. So you add it back, then you add 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm adding 2 inches seam allowance, okay. So let's go through it again. Divide your bust by 4, okay. You mark, and then you add whatever that intake you're removing there. You add it back, and then you're going to add your seam allowance. Then for my waist, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a quarter of my waist circumference. That's my circumference of my waist divided by 4. I'm going to mark it, okay, and then I'm going to add back the dart I removed on my waist. Remember, we removed ½ inch on both sides of our waist, okay. So ½ inch plus ½ inch is 1 inch, okay. So you're going to add back that 1 inch, okay, on your waist, okay. So add back the 1 inch, so we add back the 1 inch that we took out on our waist, and then we are going to add 2 inches seam allowance, okay. So that's it. I'm going to connect the points. So for my Basque effect, I'm going to connect that line, draw a slant, connect the line to that point, okay, to create that Basque effect, okay. So I'm just going to connect it with my ruler to that point. So I'm just going to blend that place, okay, so that it won't be pointed, okay. So right now we're done drafting the front, okay. So I'm going to cut this out, okay. I'm just going to blend that area, okay. I'll also blend my bust point area to eliminate, just to blend it so that it will be a little bit curved. You can do this with your rule, your curve, or you can use your freehand. Just blend it so that it will not be pointed or have any edges. Just blend it so that it will be a little bit curved, okay. Blend this area as well, your under bust area. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut this thing out. So watch me so that you will know how you're going to cut this out. But first, I'm going to cut the midpoint of that area because this paper was folded into 2. I'm just going to cut the midpoint. I'm going to be using this one for the back, okay. So let's cut. So I'm going to cut through the darts. So I remember that I hadn't labeled this pattern. So please label your pattern. Please label your cups, label everything however you want it, as long as it's going to be easy for you to remember which is which. So label your pattern, because as you're seeing it now, the cups look the same kind of, so you can actually mix it up. So I'm going to be labeling cup 1, cup 2. I'll make an arrow to indicate that this is going to be the armhole side. Okay, so however it's easy for you to understand or remember, just label them. Then I'm labeling this one the side front, then this is the side front, then this is the center front. Okay, and then this area is going to be on fold, so I'm going to write on fold. It's going to be cut on fold. Okay, so I'm going to make an arrow there. Okay, so let's continue with the curtain. So you also cut through this side of the dart. Then the cup. So we have the cup 1. Then we'll cut this side. Remember that line that we'll mark there, cut through it. This is the center front. So here is the cup 2, and then the side front, we cut through this bust line, and then that's it. Okay, so we're done cutting the front now, and this is what we have. Okay, so this is what we have. We are going to be cutting this on fold. This side is supposed to be on fold, and then you're going to cut 2 of these and 2 of these. Okay, so here is for the back. Okay, so I've already marked the lines, but let's go through it. This is my zipper allowance, so it's 1.5 inches. Okay, so from my starting point, this is my shoulder line. This is just like drafting a basic block. Okay, but we won't be needing the shoulder line. So here is my bust line of 9 inches. Okay, so from my shoulder line down is 9 inches. Okay, remember we did 9 inches for the front, so you're going to maintain that 9 inches so that your front and your back pattern is going to align. Okay, so look at what it looks like. It aligns. Okay, so this is my waistline and this is my bust line. So then I have my waist of 16 inches. Remember, 16 was the original measurement, because we won't be adding any basque effect on the back, so we'll go with the 16 inches. Okay, so what I'm going to do is from that line, I'm going to mark my bust span of 4 inches like we did for the front. Okay, remember we are starting every marking from that line, because the other space is for our zipper allowance. So I'm just going to connect my points. Then I'm going to take my dart intakes. I'm going to take 1/2 inch on both sides of my waist, and I'm going to connect it to that point. The back is pretty much straightforward and simple. Okay, so you connect your darts to your bust line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark how deep I want the back neckline to be, or the shape. Okay, so you're going to do this if you want your back neckline to be a little bit curved or have a shape. You can do a v-shaped neck, just go with whatever you want. Okay, so if you want it to be slightly curved, okay, you're going to come down by, let's say, 1.5 or 2 inches. Okay, and then you're going to connect it like this. I'm just going to use my free hand, so I don't understand that curve. Okay, you're just going to make a slant curve like this, but I'm just going to maintain the straight line. I'm just showing you so that you know and have an idea if you want your back neckline to be different, but I'm just going to maintain that straight line. Okay, so it's just going to be straight, no shape, no neckline shape or anything. I'm just going to keep it straight. So let's mark ½ inch on my waist on my zipper allowance. I'm going to connect it to my bust line. This is to eliminate bulginess at the back and to make your zipper to sit very well at your back, because you know our spine is not straight, our back is kind of curved. Okay, so because we don't want the back or zipper to be bulgy, I'm going to do this contouring. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my circumference. So I'm going to get a quarter of my bust, I'm going to mark it. Okay, so I have 11 there, and then I'm going to add 2 inches zipper allowance. So I'm just going to extend this my bust line. I was just extending it. Okay, so get a quarter of your bust measurement, you mark it on your bust line, and then you add 2 inches 2 inches seam allowance, please. Then you do the same thing for your waist. You get your waist measurements, then you remember the dart we are removing, which is ½ inch on both sides, is 1. We are going to add it back. Okay, and then we are going to add 2 inches seam allowance. Then remember that ½ inch we removed on for our bulginess. I'm going to add it back. Yes, I'll add it back, and then I'll add 2 inches seam allowance. Please, whatever you're removing, add it back so that you won't have shortages on your bodies. Okay, that is the essence. So I'm connecting the lines like this, and then I'm going to cut this out. So I was just going through your measurements. Please go through your measurements, please. Measure twice and you cut once, like we all say. So go through your measurements just to be sure before you cut out. So remember I told you I was maintaining that straight line. Okay, so I'm just going to cut through my bust line, then cut through my waistline, so cut through that line we measured for to eliminate the bulginess on our zipper area. Okay, then I'm going to label this pattern. This is my zipper area, zipper allowance. Okay, this is my center back, center back. This is my side back. Okay, so that you don't go and make mistake and join where you're not supposed to join. So I'm cutting through my darts. Okay, I'm cutting through my darts. You can decide not to. You can decide to just not cut through it and just pinch it, okay, and just sew on it. But I'm going to cut through it. So the essence of labeling is so you don't go and this is where you're supposed to join, okay. So you label so that you not go and join, and then I'm going to mark that this is my up and this is my down, okay. And then I'll also make an arrow to state that this is my that is to know that this is the size I'm supposed to join, okay, for my that, so that you won't go and join it like this, and it's going to be a very big mistake. So label your patterns, okay, as much as you can understand it, okay. So I'm done with the cutting, and I'm going to be cutting 2 of these and 2 of these, okay. And then I'm going to be cutting 2 of these too. I'm going to cut this on fold. So this side is supposed to be on fold, your fabric. Then I'm going to be cutting 2 of these and 2 of these. And then you're going to add your necessary allowances, okay. So you're going to be adding allowances all the way around your cup. Half inch same allowance round your cup, then half inch on this side, half inch on this side, half inch on the waist, half inch on this side, okay. Half inch on top here, half inch on top here, half inch here, half inch on your waist, okay. Then the same thing for the back, half inch on the top, half inch to join your darts, half inch on the top, half inch to join your darts, and then half inch on your waist. So add your necessary allowances, okay. So guys, this is the end of this tutorial. Please give us a thumbs up and ask your questions if you found it helpful.